I'm Larry Fedoruk, and welcome to another episode of my podcast. I Was 8 is a weekly series, stories of that magnificent year growing up on the great Canadian prairie. Timelines do bend a little. Some of the names have been changed, but these stories mostly happened as told. I was 8.
Chapter 5, My Summer in Front of the Mirror.
Yes, I stood in front of the mirror for what felt like an entire summer. I had my reasons. There's a lot of circumstances that led up to my mirror mission, and it's important to understand them. First of all, sometime right around the time I was 8, I had a growth spurt, and I was thrilled about it. It's not that I was particularly short. No more than all of us kids were short. You know, tiny little creatures trying to survive in the grown-up world. I've since looked back at school photos and birthday pics, and I don't seem that much shorter than the other kids, but I tell you, at the time, I felt shorter. All the cool guys, and Lydia Zadeski, were taller than me. Plus, they were faster and stronger and could hit a baseball farther than me, including Lydia Zadeski. As far as pure height, I wanted more of it. I thought it would be the answer to all my problems. With height would come skill, strength, and general social dominance. Oh, it was important. At the time, Sunday afternoons were usually spent at family gatherings, alternating between my dad's side of the family and my mom's side of the family. Both sets of grandparents lived on a farm, the family homestead, and that's where the gatherings were held. On my dad's side, there was usually much drinking, card games, yelling, and occasionally a fist fight. The idea there was just to lay low and try and avoid the adults altogether. On my mom's side, there was prayer, stories of the old country, occasionally a little wine, and all the kids were trotted out and showcased in some way. Oh, Debbie drew a picture. Gordy can tap dance. Larry learned a poem in school, that type of thing. The idea for me at any of these gatherings, mom's side, dad's side, was to turn a profit. On my dad's side of the family, an uncle would usually throw some coins your way just to keep your mouth shut. Here's 50 cents, go away, But on my mom's side, you had to work. You had to do the recitation, sing the song, dance the dance. Either way, it was money, candy money, for the entire week. On my mom's side, my uncle would always say, "You save that money. You save it up, and one day you can get yourself something nice." And I would think in my head, oh yes, and that day will be Tuesday, and it shall be Twizzlers. One Sunday, on my way to my mom's homestead, I was told that my Uncle Walter would be there. I don't have an Uncle Walter. I don't remember any Uncle Walter. Well, he's not really your uncle. He's your grandmother's cousin. Oh, so you don't earn these titles now? They just get bestowed upon you? Uncle, okay, Uncle Walter. Mother said he's not really your uncle, but you call him Uncle Walter. She was growing impatient. I went to my dad for some help, but he was a little grumpy that day because he was going to my mom's homestead. There'd be no drinking, no card games, certainly no fist fights, no matter how hard he tried. Plus, I had bigger problems. I was a little stressed on the drive up that day. I didn't have any new material. They already heard my school poem. Oh, hilarious, the cantankerous goat who's eating clothes off the clothesline. That killed. They'd heard me recite the Lord's Prayer in 2 languages. I didn't sing or dance that well. I tried to memorize some hilarious jokes from my riddle book, but I couldn't think of any of them. What was that one about the policeman? He's the strongest man in the world because he can hold up a whole line of cars with one hand. I think I did that joke already. Oh, what was that joke from TV the other night? The fisherman's wife, not tonight, I have a haddock. I don't know what that means, and it sounds a little racy. It was my mom's side of the family. I had to work clean. Think. There must be something. Oh, nothing. I was choking. it would not be a profitable day, and subsequently possibly a candy-free week. Tell you one thing you couldn't count on as candy was those peppermints that Grandma gave you. Hard, bright, white peppermints. They burned your tongue and took the roof of your mouth clean off. All us cousins ate them, though. While we were playing outside, we had the freshest breath of any family this side of the Rockies. When we got there, I kind of remembered Uncle Walter. And it was Uncle Walter who not only saved the day, but screwed me over for the rest of the summer. Uncle Walter, upon seeing me, said, "Oh my gosh, that can't be little Larry." Little Larry? I get enough of that from Lydia Zadeski. But then he turned it around. "I can't believe how much you've grown," he said. "Oh, you're like a young man now." "All right, you're laying it on a little thick there, aren't you, Wally? I mean, I'm only 8. I had a little growth spurt. It's not like I'm 7 feet tall or anything." "Well, let me look at you," he said. "You've shot up like a bean sprout." Now that part I understood, because I remembered the Bible story about Jack and the beans and the beanstalk and the giant and the golden eggs. Yeah, bean sprout. He called me over and he gave me 50 cents. He said, "Here, take this money. This is for you to keep growing." Well, that was easy cash. No poems, no jokes, no singing, no dancing, just candy money for growing. I looked around the room. Anybody else want to pay me for growing? Anyone? Anyone? But then Uncle Walter said the one thing that got to me for the rest of the summer. He stared at me silently for what seemed like 5 minutes. And then he said, "You're growing so fast. I can actually see you growing." I guess that could be possible. I mean, a lot of people, none of whom were Lydia, were telling me how tall I was getting. Then there was the story of my church pants, how suddenly they were too short for me. And there was that film on TV. You know, the one where they put a seed into some dirt, suddenly a stem starts to grow, and like in 30 seconds there's a full-bloomed flower? Maybe that was me. As I lay in bed that night, I devised my plan. Operation Watch Myself Grow. And let me clarify at this point, this was not just a matter of me documenting or measuring my growth, you know, the way your parents do when they stand you up against a door jamb and they put a mark there and say, "Oh, look, this is where you were 6 months ago." No. This operation was to eyewitness that. To see some version of that time-lapse film from TV. Oh, I know, not as fast, but I was going to watch myself grow. And boy, then I'd have a story for the kids, huh? "Hey, Lydia, huh? I saw myself grow. I'm getting taller." The next morning, I heartily ate all my breakfast because I thought that might contribute to the project. I had a fairly large mirror up on the wall of my room, and I put a big strip of masking tape up the side. Then I put 2 pieces of tape on the floor to ensure that I was standing in the exact same place each time I watched myself. With feet firmly planted, I carefully, with red crayon, marked the spot on the tape on the mirror where the top of my head was. Done. Now all I had to do was watch me grow. I had left strict instructions with my parents that I was not to be disturbed, no matter who called on me to come out and play. I will be in my room, reading comic books and working on a project. Project, yes. You know, I thought it best to keep it hush-hush for now. So I stood there and I stared. Then I stared some more. After about an hour, it seemed like my head was higher than the red mark on the tape, but I really hadn't seen myself grow. What had happened? Oh, I realized that when washing up that morning, I had slicked my hair down with water, and now that it dried, it grew puffier. Damn. I wet it down again, and I took my spot, and there I was right at that red mark again. Oh, this time I brought a big bowl of water so that I could constantly keep my hair wet and witness actual growth, not just drying hair. And I want to say that standing in front of a mirror, watching yourself grow, well, it's hard. I lasted 2 hours that first day. I even contemplated bringing something to read to help pass the time, but I had to discard that idea. It would be just my luck that I would be reading the part where Jughead is eating another hamburger, and then I'd look up and I had grown and I had missed it because I was reading a comic. So nothing to read, nothing to look at. Don't glance out the window. Just stare at yourself in the mirror. Now, the possibility did occur to me that I might grow in my sleep, but I didn't think that was possible because that was the body at rest, right? You only grow when you're awake. However, should I see a difference in height as I begin one morning, I'll know that I had grown at night, in which case I would have to stay up all night and watch myself grow and then sleep during the day. Does that make sense? Well, I was 8. One might think that even at that age, you could learn a lot about yourself by just staring at yourself for an entire day. No. I mean, you couldn't really look deep into your own eyes or study your face or even get lost in your thoughts, because if you did and you grew, you would miss it. You had to watch that red mark and the top of your head. That was it. On the second day, I only lasted about an hour, but I did start adding afternoon sessions. Those could go about 2 hours. On a couple of days, I managed almost 3 hours. One afternoon, I actually appeared shorter than I did in the morning. After panicking, like maybe I was growing in reverse, I realized that because of some chilly weather recently, I had been wearing thick socks, and now I was barefoot. Oh, so I had to dig through the laundry for that same pair of socks. Note to self, same socks every day, every session. I did this for about 5 weeks. It was so disappointing. Not only had I not seen myself grow, I did not see any growth at all in those 5 weeks. If I was growing so fast, I should at least be above that red mark. Is it possible I had stopped growing altogether? I mean, maybe I was tall for my age, but if I stop growing, in 5 years, I'll be short for my age. Not only will I be shorter than Lydia Zadesky, I'll be much shorter than Lydia Zadesky. She was probably somewhere growing right now just to spite me. Around the 5-week period, my mom called me downstairs and demanded I answer some questions. Seems some of the other mothers in town were calling and asking about me because they hadn't seen me around much of the summer, and every time their kids called on me, I would not come out to play. Was everything okay? Was I sick? What was going on? And my mother wanted to know, what was I doing in my room all this time? Why was I eating so much at every meal? And while you're at it, please explain why you're always wearing the same socks and why your hair is always slicked back with water. Well, I came clean. Bean sprout, Uncle Walter, time-lapse, flower, blah, 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 the whole story. My mother just laughed. That's ridiculous, she said. He was just joking. No one can see a person grow. It just doesn't happen that way. But it does, I argued. People grow. It must be possible to see it firsthand. Well, maybe, she said, but you'd have to stare at yourself for an entire year without sleeping. And, well, it's just impossible. I was devastated. And by the way, I told her, I think I've stopped growing altogether. She laughed again, said I was growing up just fine and not to worry. I have to admit, that little talk did help. But now I was right pissed at Uncle Walter. Next time I see him, I know just what I'm going to say. Hey, Uncle Walter, you're growing old so fast, I can actually see you getting older. I can actually see you dying. Oh, I know, that's really cruel, and I never said it, but I did think it. I did see Uncle Walter again the next summer. Pretty much same scenario, except this time I didn't even come over when he called me. I just pretended I didn't hear him and ran outside to play. I don't need your dirty candy money. Oh, and by the way, eventually I became just over 6 feet tall. I have documentation. I can prove it. One thing I can't do, however, is tell you when that happened, because there were no witnesses. No, not my parents, not me, and not Uncle Walter ever saw me grow.
I Was 8 is a weekly series written, produced, and voiced by Larry Fedoruk. A new episode every Thursday. Share your stories with Larry, or if you like, share Larry's stories with a friend. This podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Larry Fedoruk, that's Fedoruk, can be reached at larryfedoruk37@gmail.com.